The distress signal came at the worst possible time. Park Tae-ho was sitting in the pilot's seat of his old freighter, the ugly duckling eating cold noodles from a plastic container. His ship was flying through the empty space near the gas giant Kepros 7, and he was supposed to deliver medical supplies to a mining colony in 12 hours. He was tired. He was hungry. He had not slept properly in 3 days. And now his console was beeping. He put down his noodles and looked at the screen. The signal was weak, coming from somewhere near the planet's third moon. Someone was in trouble. Tae-ho sighed. He was a cargo hauler, not a rescue pilot, but he knew the rules of space. When someone sent a distress signal, you answered. It did not matter if you were busy. It did not matter if you were tired. You answered because one day you might be the one sending that signal. He changed course and flew toward the moon. The damaged ship was small, a diplomatic shuttle with elegant silver markings on its hull. One of its engines was completely destroyed, and there was a large hole in the side. Tae-ho could see that whoever was inside had very little time left. The shuttle's life support was failing. He brought his freighter close and connected his airlock to the shuttle's emergency hatch. The seal was not perfect, but it would hold for a few minutes. He grabbed his medical kit and went inside. The shuttle's interior was filled with smoke and the smell of burned metal. Emergency lights flashed red, casting strange shadows on the walls. Tae-ho moved carefully, stepping over broken pieces of equipment. He found her in the main cabin. She was lying on the floor, unconscious. Her skin was silver like polished metal, and her hair was long and white. She was wearing a formal dress that was now torn and covered in blood. Her breathing was shallow, and there was a deep cut on her forehead. Tae-ho had seen many alien species during his years as a cargo hauler, but he had never met a Vellani in person. He knew about them, of course. Everyone did. The Vellani were famous across the galaxy for their beauty, their intelligence, and their skill in diplomacy. They were also known for something else, something that Tae-ho would learn about much later. But right now, none of that mattered. She was hurt and she needed help. He knelt beside her and opened his medical kit. The cut on her head was not as bad as it looked. He cleaned it and applied a healing patch. Then he checked her body for other injuries. She had 2 broken ribs and many bruises, but nothing that would kill her. She was lucky. Or maybe not so lucky. Her shuttle was destroyed and she was floating in the middle of nowhere. If Tae-ho had not come, she would have died. He carefully lifted her and carried her back to his ship. She was lighter than he expected, and she smelled like flowers. Strange flowers that he had never encountered before. Once inside the ugly duckling, he laid her on the small bed in his sleeping quarters. He covered her with a blanket and gave her a shot of medicine to help with the pain. Then he sat down and waited. She woke up 2 hours later. Her eyes opened slowly. They were a beautiful shade of purple, like the color of a sunset on a water planet. She looked around the small room, confused at first, then calm. The Vellani were known for controlling their emotions. "Where am I?" she asked. Her voice was soft and musical. "You are on my ship," Tae-ho said. "The ugly duckling, I found you near Kepros 7. Your shuttle was destroyed." She touched the healing patch on her forehead. "I remember. There was an explosion. The engine failed." "What happened?" "I do not know. I was traveling to a diplomatic meeting when the engine suddenly exploded. I believe it was sabotage, but I cannot be certain." Tae-ho nodded. Sabotage was common in space. There were many people who did not want diplomatic meetings to happen. War was profitable for some. "What is your name?" he asked. "I am called Yuna," she said. "I am a junior ambassador of the Vellani people." "I am Park Tae-ho. I am a cargo hauler." Yuna looked at him with her purple eyes. She studied his face for a long moment, as if she was trying to understand something. Then she spoke again. "You saved my life, Park Tae-ho." "Anyone would have done the same," he said. "No," she said. "They would not. I have studied many species. Most would have ignored the signal. It was not convenient for you to stop, yet you stopped. T-Ho felt uncomfortable. He was not used to being thanked. He was not used to being noticed at all. He was just a cargo hauler, a small person doing a small job in a very large universe. I have to deliver you somewhere, he said, changing the subject. I cannot take you to the Velani homeworld. It is too far and I have a delivery to make. But there is a station nearby. Outpost Sigma 12. They have medical facilities. Your people can pick you up from there. Yuna nodded. That is acceptable. The journey to Sigma 12 took 8 hours. During that time, Yuna rested and T-Ho flew the ship. They did not talk much. T-Ho was busy with the controls and Yuna was still recovering from her injuries. But when they arrived at the station, something happened that would change everything. T-Ho helped Yuna walk to the station's medical center. She was still weak, and she needed to lean on him for support. The doctors there examined her and said she would need at least 2 weeks to fully recover. I will contact your embassy, T-Ho said. They will send someone to get you. Yuna looked at him. There was something in her eyes that he did not understand, something serious. And what about you? She asked. T-Ho was confused. What about me? I have to go. My delivery is already late. Will you return? He did not think about his answer. He was tired. He was worried about his cargo. He just wanted to leave and get back to his normal life. Sure, he said. Do not worry, I will come back for you. And then he left. He did not know it at the time, but those words had just changed his entire life. Because to a Vellani, words were not just sounds. Words were promises, and promises were sacred. Yuna watched him go. She did not try to stop him. She did not explain what his words meant in her culture. She simply sat in the medical center and waited. Because Park T-Ho had made a promise, and Yuna believed with absolute certainty that he would keep it. She was wrong about many things regarding humans, but she was right about one thing. He would come back. It would just take much longer than either of them expected. Outpost Sigma 12 was not a beautiful place. It was a mining station built on a dead rock floating in the middle of nowhere. The walls were gray metal. The air smelled like oil and sweat. The people who lived there were miners, traders, and travelers who had nowhere else to go. Nobody came to Sigma 12 because they wanted to. They came because they had no choice. Yuna did not belong here. She was a Vellani diplomat trained in the finest schools of her homeworld. She was used to clean rooms, beautiful gardens, and polite conversation. Sigma 12 had none of these things. But she stayed, because Park T-Ho had promised to come back for her. The first week was not difficult. Her injuries needed time to heal, and she spent most of her days in the medical center. The doctors were kind to her. They gave her medicine and clean food and asked her many questions about the Vellani people. She answered them patiently. On the 8th day, she received a message from the Vellani embassy. Junior Ambassador Yuna, the message said, we have received your report about the shuttle incident. We are investigating the cause of the explosion. Due to current diplomatic difficulties, we cannot send a ship to retrieve you immediately. Please wait at your current location. A retrieval ship will arrive in approximately 4 to 6 months. 4 to 6 months. Yuna read the message 3 times. Then she put down her data pad and thought about what to do. In her culture, being abandoned was a great shame. If the embassy could not retrieve her for 6 months, it meant she was not important to them. It meant she had failed in some way. But Yuna was not worried about the embassy. She had someone else coming for her. She sent a reply to the embassy. Thank you for your message. However, I have already arranged for transportation. A human named Park T-Ho has promised to retrieve me. I will wait for him. The embassy did not respond. They probably thought she was confused from her injuries. The second week was harder. Yuna was feeling better, but she had nothing to do. She walked around the station, looking at the shops and the people. Everything was strange and unfamiliar. The other species on the station looked at her with curiosity. Some of them tried to talk to her. Most of them just stared. She learned to ignore the stares. She learned to find food that she could eat. She learned to sleep in the small room that the station had given her. And she learned about humans. There were many humans on Sigma 12. They worked as mechanics, traders, and pilots. They were loud and messy and emotional. They said things they did not mean. They made promises they did not keep. At least, that is what the other aliens told her. "You should not trust humans," said a Keth merchant one day. The Keth were large, green-skinned creatures with 4 arms. This one sold food supplies near the docking area. "They are unreliable. They say one thing and do another." "My human will come," Una said. The merchant laughed. "You're human. You think a human belongs to you because he said some words. Humans do not remember their words. They speak without thinking." Una did not argue. She simply walked away. But the merchant's words stayed with her. Were humans really so unreliable? Did they really not remember their promises? She decided to learn more. The station had a small library, a room filled with old data pads and broken screens. Una spent many hours there, reading about human history and human culture. What she learned was confusing. Humans were young. Their species had only been traveling in space for a few hundred years. Compared to the Velani, who had been in space for thousands of years, humans were like children. They were curious and brave and very, very stubborn. They did things that made no sense. They fought wars over small pieces of land. They built cities in places where cities should not exist. They flew into danger just to see what was there. But they also did something else, something that Una found interesting. They loved. Not the way the Velani loved, which was calm and logical. Humans loved with their whole being. They loved their families, their friends, their pets, their machines. They loved things that would die. They loved things that would leave them. They loved even when it hurt. Una did not understand this, but she wanted to. The 3rd week was the hardest. Una started to doubt. She woke up every morning and checked the docking schedule. She looked for the ugly duckling. She looked for any ship connected to Park T-Ho. There was nothing. She went to the communications center and tried to send him a message, but she did not have his contact information. She did not know his ship's registration code. She only knew his name and the name of his ship. "I am looking for a human pilot," she told the communication officer. "His name is Park T-Ho. His ship is called the Ugly Duckling." The officer, a tired-looking alien with blue skin, typed the information into his computer. "There are many ships with that registration type," he said. "Without a proper code, I cannot find him. Can you send a general message? Something that will reach all ships in this sector?" "That would cost a lot of money." Una did not have money. She had nothing except the clothes the station had given her and the small bag she had brought from her shuttle. She went back to her room and sat on her bed. For the first time since the accident, she felt truly alone. Maybe the Keth merchant was right. Maybe humans did not keep their promises. Maybe Park T-Ho had already forgotten about her. Maybe she was foolish to wait. But then she remembered something. She remembered the way he had looked at her when he found her in the shuttle. She remembered how carefully he had carried her to his ship. She remembered the sound of his voice when he said, "Do not worry, I will come back for you." He had meant it, she was sure of it. So she kept waiting. The 4th week brought news, not from T-Ho but about him. Una was eating dinner in the station's common area when she heard some pilots talking at the next table. They were human pilots, rough-looking men with dirty clothes and tired eyes. "Did you hear about that cargo hauler?" one of them said. "The one with the medical supplies." "The one who got stuck at the checkpoint," another one replied. "Yeah, I heard. Customs found something wrong with his papers. They held him for 2 weeks. 2 weeks for what?" Who knows? You know how those customs officers are. They will find any excuse to delay you. Yuna listened carefully. Could they be talking about Tiho? She stood up and walked to their table. The pilots looked at her with surprise. Villani did not usually talk to common pilots. "Excuse me," she said. "The cargo hauler you mentioned, do you know his name?" The pilots exchanged glances. "Why do you want to know?" "I am waiting for someone, a cargo hauler who is supposed to come back for me." One of the pilots scratched his head. "I do not know his name, but his ship was something funny, ugly something." "The ugly duckling." "Yeah, that is it, the ugly duckling, you know him." Yuna felt her heart beat faster. "Yes, I know him. Where is he now?" "Last I heard, he was stuck at checkpoint Delta 9. Something about his cargo being expired. They would not let him through." Checkpoint Delta 9 was 3 days away from Sigma 12. If T-Ho was stuck there, it meant he had been trying to come back. He had not forgotten her. He was just delayed. Yuna thanked the pilots and returned to her room. She lay down on her bed and looked at the ceiling. 37 days. She had been waiting for 37 days, and she would wait 37 more if she had to. Because Park T-Ho had made a promise, and Yuna believed with her entire being that he would keep it. Somewhere out there, in the cold darkness of space, a tired human was fighting to reach her. He did not know that she was counting the days. He did not know that she had refused to leave. He did not know that his casual words had meant everything to her. But he was coming. And that was all that mattered. Park T-Ho was having the worst month of his entire life. First, his engine broke down near the Kelvin Nebula. He spent 4 days floating in space, eating emergency rations and trying to fix it with spare parts that did not fit. He eventually got it working again, but the repair cost him 3 days of travel time. Then, when he reached checkpoint Delta 9, the customs officers found a problem with his cargo. The medical supplies he was carrying had an expiration date that was 2 days past. 2 days. The supplies were still perfectly good, but the rules were the rules. They held him for 2 weeks while they inspected every single container. After that, his payment for the delivery was cut in half because he was late. He argued with the company for 3 days, but they refused to pay the full amount. "Late delivery, late payment," they said. "That is the contract." And through all of this, T-Ho never once thought about the Vellani woman he had left at Sigma 12. It was not because he did not care. It was because he was too busy surviving. When you are a cargo hauler living on the edge of bankruptcy, you do not have time to think about strangers you helped one time. You think about fuel. You think about food. You think about paying your debts. T-Ho assumed that Yuna had been picked up by her embassy weeks ago. She was a diplomat after all. Her people would take care of her. That was how things worked. He was wrong. The ugly duckling arrived at Outpost Sigma 12 on a Thursday afternoon. T-Ho needed repairs that he could not do himself. His navigation system was acting strange, and his water recycler was making a noise that worried him. Sigma 12 was not the best place for repairs, but it was cheap, and cheap was all he could afford. He docked his ship and went to find a mechanic. The station looked the same as always: gray walls, bad smells, tired people walking through dirty corridors. T-Ho fit right in. He found a mechanic named Beak who agreed to look at his ship for a reasonable price. They shook hands and T-Ho gave him the access codes. Then he went to find something to eat. He was walking toward the food area when he saw her. Yuna was standing in the middle of the corridor looking directly at him. She was wearing simple station clothes instead of her diplomatic dress. Her silver skin was clean and healthy, and her white hair was tied back in a practical style. She looked different from when he last saw her, stronger, more determined. T-Ho stopped walking. For a moment, he could not understand what he was seeing. "Yuna," he said. "Park T-Ho," she replied. Her voice was calm, but there was something in her eyes that he could not read. "You have finally arrived." What are you doing here? I thought your embassy would pick you up. They offered to send a ship in 6 months. I declined. 6 months, that is terrible. Why did you decline? Yuna tilted her head slightly. Because you said you would come back for me. I was waiting for you. Tiho felt something cold settle in his stomach. She had been waiting for him for over a month. That made no sense. He was nobody. He was just a cargo hauler who had helped her one time. I did not know, he said. I thought you would be gone by now. You made a promise, Yuna said. In my culture, promises are sacred. When you said you would come back for me, I believed you. Tiho did not know what to say. He remembered saying those words, but he had not meant them seriously. It was just something humans said when they were leaving. A polite phrase, an empty gesture. But to Yuna, it had meant everything. We should talk, he said finally. Let me take you to my ship. They walked together through the station corridors. People stared at them. A human and a Velani was an unusual pair, but Tiho did not notice the stares. He was too busy thinking about what to say. When they reached the ugly duckling, Tiho opened the cargo bay door and let Yuna inside. The cargo bay was messy and full of empty containers, but it was private. They could talk without being interrupted. I am sorry, Tiho said. I did not know that my words meant so much to you. In human culture, we often say things without meaning them literally. It was wrong of me to make a promise I did not intend to keep. Yuna looked at him. You did not intend to return. I did not think about it. I assumed your people would take care of you. But you said you would come back. Yes, but I did not mean it like a real promise. It was just something I said. Yuna was quiet for a moment. Then she did something that surprised him completely. She started to remove her jacket. What are you doing? Tiho asked, his voice suddenly higher than normal. I am changing my clothes, Yuna said calmly. She pulled off her jacket and started working on her shirt. These are the same clothes the station gave me 5 weeks ago. They are worn and uncomfortable. You have come back for me, so I assumed you have brought me new clothes. I did not bring you clothes. Tiho stepped back, his face turning red. And you cannot just undress in front of me. Yuna paused with her shirt half open. She looked at him with genuine confusion. Why not? Is there something wrong with my body? No, there is nothing wrong with your body. That is the problem. I do not understand. Tiho covered his eyes with his hand. In human culture, we do not undress in front of people we just met. It is considered private. Embarrassing. Embarrassing. Yuna repeated the word like she had never heard it before. My body causes you shame. Not shame, just discomfort. Humans have different rules about these things. Yuna was silent for a moment. Then she slowly buttoned her shirt again. I apologize, I did not know. Among the Vellani, bodies are simply bodies. There is no special meaning attached to covering or uncovering them. It is a practical matter, not an emotional one. Tiho lowered his hand and looked at her. His face was still red, but he was no longer panicking. It is okay. You did not know, and I should have warned you about human customs. There are many things I do not know about humans, Yuna said. I spent 5 weeks studying your species, but I still do not understand you. 5 weeks. 37 days. I counted each one. Tiho felt a wave of guilt wash over him. While he had been complaining about customs officers and broken engines, this woman had been waiting for him on a dirty mining station. She had turned down her own embassy because she believed in his words. She had spent over a month learning about humans just so she could understand him better. And he had not even remembered that she existed. I am really sorry, he said. I was a terrible person to leave you here alone. You are not terrible, Yuna said. You are human, you act according to your nature, but I will admit that I am confused. About what? You say you did not mean your promise, but you are here now. You returned to this station. If you did not intend to find me, why did you come back? Tiho opened his mouth to answer, then closed it again. She was right. Of all the stations in this sector, he had chosen to come back to Sigma 12. He had told himself it was because the repairs were cheap. But was that really the only reason? I do not know, he admitted. Maybe some part of me remembered. Yuna smiled. It was the first time he had seen her smile. Her face changed completely, becoming warm and bright. Then perhaps human promises are not as empty as you believe. Tiho did not know how to respond to that, so he did what humans do best when they are confused. He changed the subject. Are you hungry? He asked. I have food, not good food, but food. I would like that, Yuna said. They sat together in the cargo bay, eating instant noodles from plastic containers. It was not a fancy meal. It was not a diplomatic dinner, but it was real and it was shared, and somehow that made it better than anything Yuna had eaten in 5 weeks. What happens now? She asked. Tiho looked at her. This strange, beautiful alien who had waited over a month for a promise he never meant to make. I do not know, he said honestly, but I think we should figure it out together. Yuna nodded. That is acceptable. Outside the ship, the universe continued to spin. Stars burned and died. Empires rose and fell. But in this small cargo bay, 2 people from different worlds had found something unexpected. A connection. And neither of them knew yet just how much trouble it would cause. The message arrived 3 days after Tiho and Yuna reunited. They were in the cockpit of the ugly duckling, waiting for the repairs to finish, when Yuna's data pad started beeping. She looked at it and her face became very still. What is it? Tiho asked. A message from the Velani High Council, she said quietly. They have learned about our situation. What situation? Yuna handed him the data pad. The message was written in both Velani and Standard Galactic, so Tiho could read it. What he read made his blood turn cold. To Junior Ambassador Yuna of House Silvaris. It has come to our attention that you have claimed a human cargo hauler named Park Tiho as your oath-bound guardian. As per Velani law, any non-Velani who accepts responsibility for a member of our species must prove their worthiness before the High Council. Park Tiho is hereby summoned to appear before the Council within 30 standard days. If he fails to prove himself worthy, you will face dishonor and be stripped of your diplomatic status. This matter is not negotiable. High Elder Moonflower. Velani High Council. Tiho read the message twice. Then he read it a 3rd time, hoping he had misunderstood something. Oathbound Guardian, he said. What does that mean? Yuna took back the data pad. When I told the embassy that you had promised to return for me, they recorded it as an official oath. In Velani culture, when someone makes a promise to protect a Velani citizen, they become responsible for that person. It is called the Oath of Guardianship. But I did not know about this. I just said I would come back. I know, Yuna said. That is why I did not explain it to you at the time. I thought the embassy would ignore it. I did not expect them to make it official. Tiho stood up and started packing around the small cockpit. This was bad. This was very, very bad. He was a cargo hauler. He was nobody special. How was he supposed to prove himself worthy to a council of alien elders? What happens if I fail? He asked. Yuna was quiet for a moment. I will lose my status as a diplomat. My family will be shamed. I will be forced to live in exile. All because of something I said without thinking. All because of a promise you made. Tiho stopped packing. He looked at Yuna, really looked at her for the first time since receiving the message. She was trying to stay calm, but he could see the fear in her purple eyes. This was not her fault. She had simply believed in his words, and now she might lose everything because he had been careless. There must be a way to fix this, he said. There is, Yuna said. You go before the council and prove that you are worthy. How do I do that? I do not know. The council will decide what test you must pass. Ti-Ho thought about this. He could refuse. He could tell the council that he had not meant his promise. He could explain that it was all a misunderstanding. But if he did that, Yuna would suffer. She would be punished for believing in him. He could not let that happen. "Fine," he said. "I will do it. I will go before your council and prove myself." Yuna looked at him with surprise. "You would do that for me?" "I made a mess of your life with my careless words. The least I can do is try to fix it." "But the council is very strict. They do not like humans. They think your species is chaotic and unreliable." "Then I will show them they are wrong." Yuna stared at him for a long moment. Then she did something unexpected. She reached out and touched his hand. Her silver fingers were cool against his skin. "Thank you," she said softly. "I did not expect you to care." "I do not know why I care," Ti-Ho admitted, "but I do." They traveled to the Vellani homeworld together. It took 2 weeks, and during that time, Yuna taught Ti-Ho everything she could about Vellani culture. She taught him how to bow properly. She taught him which words to use when speaking to elders. She taught him about the history of her people and the importance of honor in their society. But most importantly, she taught him why the Vellani did not trust humans. 300 years ago, Yuna explained one night, a human trader made a deal with our people. He promised to deliver medicine to one of our colonies. The colony was suffering from a terrible disease. Many people were dying. What happened? The trader took the money and disappeared. He never delivered the medicine. Thousands of Vellani died because of his broken promise. Ti-Ho felt sick. That is terrible. After that, our people decided that humans could not be trusted. Your words mean nothing. Your promises are empty. You care only about yourselves. Not all humans are like that. I believe you, Yuna said, but the council does not. They will expect you to fail. They will expect you to prove that humans are exactly as selfish as they believe. Then I will prove them wrong. Yuna smiled sadly. I hope you can, but the test will not be easy. The Vellani homeworld was beautiful. It was a planet covered in silver forests and purple oceans. The cities were made of crystal and light, and the people moved through them like dancers. Everything was elegant and perfect, like a painting come to life. Ti-Ho felt out of place the moment he arrived. His clothes were dirty. His ship was ugly. He was a rough stone in a world of polished gems. But he did not turn back. The High Council met in a great hall at the center of the capital city. The hall was filled with thousands of Vellani, all watching silently as Ti-Ho walked toward the raised platform where the elders sat. High Elder Moonflower was an ancient Vellani with skin like polished silver and eyes that seemed to see through everything. She looked at Ti-Ho like he was a bug that had crawled into her house. "So," she said, "this is the human who claims to be worthy of our daughter." "I do not claim to be worthy," Ti-Ho said. He remembered Yuna's lessons about speaking to elders. He bowed deeply before continuing. "I only claim that I made a promise, and I intend to keep it." The elders murmured among themselves. Moonflower raised a hand for silence. "Pretty words," she said. "Humans are good at pretty words, but can you back them with action? Tell me what I must do." Moonflower smiled. It was not a friendly smile. "There is a cargo route known as the Serpent's Path. It runs through the most dangerous space in this sector. Pirates, asteroid fields, magnetic storms. No ship has completed it in 15 years. The crowd gasped. Even Yuna, who was standing in the audience, looked shocked. "You want me to fly the Serpent's Path?" Ti-Ho asked. "If you complete the route and deliver your cargo on time, we will accept that your word has value. If you fail, or if you run away like a coward, Yuna will face the consequences." Ti-Ho looked at the crowd. He saw fear in their eyes. They expected him to refuse. They expected him to run. He thought about his ship, the ugly duckling. It was old and slow and held together by luck. It had no weapons. It had no shields. It was probably the worst ship in the galaxy to attempt the Serpent's path. But it was his ship, and he was its pilot. "I accept," he said. The crowd went silent. Moonflower raised an eyebrow. "You accept. You understand that many pilots have died on the Serpent's path." "I understand." "You understand that your ship is old and weak." "I understand." "Then why do you accept?" T-Ho looked at Yuna. She was watching him with tears in her eyes. She had not expected him to say yes. She had probably expected him to apologize and walk away. But T-Ho was done walking away. "Because I made a promise," he said, "and where I come from that means something." The hall was silent for a long moment. Then High Elder Moonflower nodded slowly. "Very well, human. You have 3 days to prepare. After that, you will fly the Serpent's path. May your actions be as bold as your words." T-Ho bowed again and turned to leave. As he walked out of the hall, he passed Yuna. She grabbed his arm and pulled him close. "You are crazy," she whispered. "Probably," he agreed. "You could die." "I know." "Then why?" T-Ho looked at her. This strange, beautiful alien who had believed in him when no one else did. "Because you waited for me," he said. "For 37 days you waited. That has to mean something." Yuna did not know what to say, so she simply held his arm tighter. And in 3 days, the ugly duckling would fly into the most dangerous space in the galaxy, with only a human stubbornness to keep it alive. The Serpent's path was not just dangerous, it was impossible. T-Ho studied the route on his navigation screen and felt his stomach drop. The path twisted through 3 asteroid fields, 2 radiation zones, and a section of space that was controlled by the most violent pirate clan in the sector. The pirates were called the Red Fangs, and they had killed more pilots than anyone could count. No weapons, no shields, just an old cargo ship and a human who refused to give up. "This is suicide," said Beak, the mechanic who had repaired the ugly duckling. He was standing in T-Ho's cargo bay, watching him load supplies. "Even the best pilots cannot survive the Serpent's path. What makes you think you can?" "I do not think I can," T-Ho admitted, "but I have to try." "Why, for some alien woman you barely know." T-Ho stopped loading and looked at the mechanic. "She believed in me. When everyone else said humans cannot be trusted, she believed that I would keep my word. How can I prove them right by running away?" Beak shook his head. "You humans are crazy." "Probably," T-Ho agreed, "but we are also stubborn." The ugly duckling launched at dawn on the 3rd day. Yuna was not allowed to come with him. The trial was his alone, but she stood at the viewing window of the space station and watched his ship fly away. She watched until it was just a tiny dot of light among the stars. "Be safe," she whispered. "Please be safe." The first challenge was the asteroid field. The rocks were everywhere, spinning and crashing into each other in a deadly dance. A normal pilot would try to navigate carefully, finding safe paths between the rocks, but there were no safe paths. The asteroids moved too fast and too unpredictably. T-Ho did not try to be careful. Instead, he did something crazy. He turned off his navigation computer. The computer was programmed to avoid danger. It would slow down and calculate the safest route. But there was no safest route in this mess. The computer would just keep calculating until a rock smashed into the ship. Without the computer, T-Ho flew by instinct. He watched the rocks with his own eyes, felt the movement of his ship with his own hands. He dodged and twisted and rolled through spaces that no computer would have found. It was reckless. It was stupid. It was exactly what a human would do. He made it through the first asteroid field in 40 minutes. The record was 3 hours. The second challenge was the radiation zone. The radiation here was strong enough to fry most ship systems. The Vellani ships had special shields to protect them. The ugly duckling had nothing. But T-Ho had studied the radiation patterns before he left. He noticed something interesting. The radiation was not constant. It came in waves like the tide of an ocean. There were brief moments, just a few seconds long, when the radiation dropped to almost nothing. He timed his flight to match those moments. When the radiation dropped, he flew forward as fast as he could. When it rose again, he hid behind the largest rocks he could find and waited. It took 12 hours to cross the radiation zone. 12 hours of starting and stopping, hiding and running. By the end, T-Ho was exhausted and his ship was damaged, but he was still alive. The third challenge was the worst, the Red Fangs. The pirates saw him coming long before he saw them. Their ships were fast and deadly, with weapons that could tear the ugly duckling apart in seconds. There were 6 of them, circling like sharks around a wounded fish. "Cargo ship," their leader called over the radio. "Stop your engines and prepare to be boarded. If you try to run, we will destroy you." T-Ho looked at his controls. He had no weapons. He had no shields. He had nothing that could fight 6 armed ships. But he had something else. He had an idea. "Red Fang's ship," he replied calmly. "I would not come any closer if I were you." "Why not?" "Because my cargo is extremely dangerous. I am carrying experimental bioweapons from the Velani government. If you damage my ship, the weapons will activate. This entire sector will become a death zone." There was silence on the radio. The pirate ship stopped moving. "You are lying," the leader said, but his voice was uncertain. "Am I?" T-Ho pressed a button on his console. He had rigged the ship to release a cloud of colored gas from the cargo bay. The gas was harmless, just smoke mixed with dye. But from outside, it looked like something was leaking from his ship. "Look at your sensors," T-Ho said. "What do they show?" The pirate's sensors would show an unknown substance coming from the cargo bay. They would not know what it was. They would not know if it was dangerous. All they would know was that this crazy human claimed to be carrying bioweapons. Was he lying? Probably, but what if he was not? "This human is insane," one of the pirates muttered. "All humans are insane," another replied. The pirate leader made his decision. Let him pass. He is not worth the risk. The 6 ships moved aside. T-Ho flew through the gap, his heart pounding in his chest. He did not look back. He did not slow down. He flew until the pirates were far behind him. Then he started laughing. It was the laugh of a man who could not believe he was still alive. It was the laugh of a man who had bluffed 6 armed pirates with nothing but colored smoke and confidence. It was the laugh of a human. The ugly duckling arrived at the Velani homeworld 2 hours ahead of schedule. The cargo bay was filled with medical supplies, food, and clean water. It was a simple delivery, the kind that T-Ho had done hundreds of times before. But this time, it meant something more. The High Council was waiting for him when he landed. Thousands of Velani filled the square around the landing pad. They had expected him to fail. They had expected to never see him again. But here he was, tired, dirty, and alive. High Elder Moonflower stepped forward. Her face was impossible to read. "You completed the Serpent's Path," she said. "You are the first pilot in 15 years to do so." "I had a promise to keep," T-Ho said. "We monitored your journey. We saw what you did. You turned off your navigation computer in the asteroid field. You hid behind rocks in the radiation zone. You bluffed pirates with fake bioweapons. I did what I had to do. You used no weapons, no shields, no advanced technology. You survived with nothing but your own mind and your own will. That is all I have." Moonflower was silent for a long moment. Then she did something that shocked everyone watching. She smiled. "I have lived for 300 years," she said. "I have seen many species. I have judged many people. I have always believed that humans were chaotic, unreliable, and selfish." She looked at T-Ho with new respect in her eyes. I was wrong. Your species is chaotic, but chaos can be a weapon. Your species is unpredictable, but unpredictability can be a strength. You kept your promise even when it cost you everything. That is not weakness. That is honor. She turned to the crowd. The council has reached its decision. Park Ti-ho has proven himself worthy. His word has value. His promise has meaning. From this day forward, he is recognized as the oath-bound guardian of Yuna of House Silvaris. The crowd erupted in noise. Some were cheering. Some were murmuring in disbelief. But all of them were looking at the tired human standing on the landing pad. A human who had done the impossible. Yuna pushed through the crowd and ran to him. She threw her arms around him, not caring about proper diplomatic behavior. She just held him tight. "You did it," she said, her voice breaking. "You actually did it." "I told you I would keep my promise," Ti-ho said. "You could have died. But I did not." "You are crazy." "You keep saying that." Yuna pulled back and looked at him. Her purple eyes were filled with tears, but she was smiling. "What happens now?" Ti-ho thought about this. His ship was damaged. His body was exhausted. His life as a simple cargo hauler was probably over. But he did not feel sad. He felt something else, something he had not felt in a long time. He felt alive. "Now," he said, "I think we figure out what comes next, together." Yuna nodded. "Together, I like that." As they walked away from the landing pad, High Elder Moonflower watched them go. An aide approached her. "Elder," the aide said, "do you really believe humans can be trusted?" Moonflower considered the question. "No," she said finally. "Humans cannot be trusted to be careful. They cannot be trusted to be logical. They cannot be trusted to do the smart thing." She paused and smiled again. "But they can be trusted to be stubborn, and sometimes that is enough." The aide nodded, confused but accepting. And in the records of the Velani High Council, a new entry was made that day. Park Ti-ho, human, cargo hauler, the first of his kind to complete the Serpent's Path, the first of his kind to be recognized as oath-bound guardian. And underneath, in small letters, someone had added a note. Humanity, chaotic, stubborn, surprisingly honorable. It was, perhaps, the best compliment the Velani had ever given to any species. And it was only the beginning.